Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started since it is 3 o'clock. So welcome to our office hours. We are going to be talking about inclusion today. And Tracy Whitlock is our guest presenter, but we are just going to go through some housekeeping things before we turn it over to her. So this is being recorded. So if you miss any parts, this will be uploaded to our professional learning page within a few weeks. And as we go through, please feel free to drop questions into the chat box. We will check in periodically. And if you want to, you can always come off of mute and ask questions as well. So we're going to do quick introductions of our team, the Supervision, Monitoring, and Support team, and then we'll turn it over to Tracy to talk about her Maine Inclusive Education work that they're doing. And she'll go over the framework, and then we'll go over questions and resources. Okay, and so this is our team. We are the Supervision, Monitoring, and Support team. My name is Carly Thibodeau, and I have been with the team for just over 3 years. And before that, I was a teacher for 21 years. And with me today is Jennifer.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jennifer Gleason. Like the rest of the team, I was a special education teacher before I joined this team 4.5 years ago.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Julie is also with us today.
Hi, I'm Julie Pelletier. I'm the admin support for the monitoring team. I'm in my 9th year with the Maine DOE, and prior to that, I was admin support at a K-5 elementary school for 16 years.
Awesome. Thank you. And other members are also Colette Sullivan and Ashley Satry. They just are not here with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Whitlock, who's going to talk to us about inclusion today.
Great. Thank you so much, Carly. Can everybody hear me okay? Wonderful. I am Tracy Whitlock. I coordinate special projects for inclusion at the Maine Department of Education, Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. And I was sharing earlier, I am going to apologize if you hear any noise in the background. I am at the first Maine Reading League conference today at Thomas College in Waterville. So if you don't know anything about the Reading League, feel free to reach out to me. It's been a really amazing day talking about the science of reading and understanding how to support all learners in the general education classroom related to reading and writing. And it's been a really exciting and inspirational day. And so I'd love to share with you all what I've learned here. And if you want to reach out to Dee Saucier, who's on my team, whose focus is on literacy instruction, please feel free to, and I can share those our contact information in the chat. But a great day, and would highly recommend you take a look at the Maine Reading League and think about either joining or attending the conference next year, because it was really worth my time today. So just a quick going over the vision and the mission of our office, which I'm sure you've heard before, but just focusing on that all Maine students with disabilities have the opportunities, the unlimited opportunities to learn and lead inclusive, purposeful, and meaningful lives. So just as any student in school, you know, those hopes and dreams that we have for them are the same dreams that we have for all of our students in school, and students with disabilities are obviously a part of that. And so focusing on how do we make sure that schools and SAUs and the state are more inclusive. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about what inclusion means to you. We're going to take a quick look at the draft of the Maine Inclusive Education Framework that's been developed. And then we'll look at some resources, opportunities, and upcoming events. And we do this in order to support educators and administrators as we all ensure schools are places of belonging for every single student in the school. So we don't have to do this on a Mentimeter. You can just do it, throw things in the chat. If you want to do the Mentimeter, that's fine too. But really, what does inclusion mean to you? So if you could just take 1 minute and just think about 2 or 3 words of what inclusion means to you. And if you could put it in the chat, if we put it all right there, it'll be easy for us to access it. So what does inclusion mean to you? Thanks. I'm definitely seeing a theme of access being a part of the general education classroom curriculum, desegregation of the ability spectrum. Everyone is a part of the group. And this is what we're focusing on in this inclusion work that we're doing. Next slide, please. In Maine, we are one of the least inclusive states when it comes to our least restrictive environment. This data is a little bit old now. I need to get some more updated data because this is from just a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now. But really our LRE data has stayed pretty stagnant for the past 10 years. But it's thinking about what is it that we can be doing in Maine so that we are more inclusive, that students with disabilities aren't in classrooms that are segregated from everyone else, and that those students have the same opportunities and same access to all the resources that every other student does in the school. Next slide. So we're going to try and watch a video here. We're going to see how that works. Carly's helping me out behind the scenes to see if we can show this video. And if we can't, I can talk you through it. And so as we're queuing this up and getting it started, let's see if we can hear it. Okay, we can't hear. Nope.
Is it, could you hear it or no? Hold on, let me see.
I think there's like, when you go to share, it gives you the option somewhere on the screen to say share audio. So if you stop sharing and go back in.
Okay, hold on. Wow. Okay, so do I have to stop sharing my whole thing?
Yes, I think so. Thanks for helping me out, Carly. I apologize. This is on
Oh,
me,
that's okay.
not on Carly.
Oh, share sound.
So just a little background information. We're going to talk more about Washington State and what they're doing, but this is an algebra classroom, and they'll talk you through in the video, but it's what it looks like in a classroom.
Good.
Frequently we talk about what it looks like for elementary.
So
This is a good example of what it could look like in a high school classroom.
Can you hear that?
I could hear
That's the only
talking.
part I'm
Yep.
getting. You're getting more than that.
When it comes to inclusive practices, part of what's happened in our profession is we have isolated students that maybe aren't on that path, thinking that putting them in a different place or location with extra support would help them achieve those goals. And we know from decades of data that actually makes those gaps bigger. So I think it starts with a high bar for what we want all students to learn, and we figure out how do we do that together with all of our students and not separate and rank and sort students and exclude them from the experience that all students should gain. We need all students to learn these algebra skills. We have 2 amazing educators in the room trying to make that happen. One teacher kind of is more expert on the content side of it, and then the other teacher is more of an expert on the learning side of it and how to have kids access the content. And so they'll kind of work together throughout the course of a period to teach the content, and then the other teacher might say, I'm noticing these kids over here aren't quite getting it, let's try something different. Or they're going to work together to plan ahead for some of those anticipated misconceptions that might happen. We're not going to start to notice students that are a little bit further behind and then go send them somewhere else to get that help. We're going to do it right there with their peers. We have an expanded peer tutor program here where students that want to serve their community are stepping up in ways and supporting their fellow students that maybe need that extra support. It's very much a relationship and a kind of a back and forth, and it does take 2 educators believing that all students can, working together to make it happen. When you have students that have been isolated or excluded for so long, I mean, there is an impact on what they believe about what they're capable of. That's a huge challenge. That's one of the hard parts about being in high school, is if you have kids that have traveled through a system for years and years and years that have been isolated and excluded, it takes some time to get them to believe in themselves again. And that's the challenge. What I'm super proud of this staff is, even in spite of that, we are saying, no, we're not, we're cutting that off here. I think the students with disabilities we've seen over the last few years is an increased sense of belonging that has definitely risen. You see those students get their dignity back, like they're in class with their peers and we're learning together, and you can kind of see them roll their shoulders back a little bit. Some of our students come to us pretty far behind, and we're just kind of learning how to do this together. So I think we have a lot of room for growth on the outcome side still, but as our system moves this direction, we're going to start to see our students come up more prepared.
So you can write it once, like right here, and once over here. And
if you truly commit to all students, you literally start thinking one by one, and that's very overwhelming. We always need more time. We need more resources, but we know like that's always going to be the case. It takes a tremendous amount of teacher leadership, and it takes a staff willing to continue to learn and be uncomfortable and just understand that we're literally changing a system that wasn't designed for these outcomes, and to be excited to be a part of that solution. We're at this moment in our education journey as a whole system that like this is a pivotal moment right now, and I think schools that are embracing this and really trying to make it happen are going to make it, because we know we've got to do something different.
Thanks, Carly. So before we go on, and we'll go to the next slide, is there anything that you noticed or anything that you wondered about while you were watching that video? So hold on to that as we continue to have our conversations. And again, I apologize. I am in a louder space, so hopefully you can hear me okay, because there might be additional sounds here, so I apologize. So Washington State really has been a model for us in how we're thinking about the work that we're doing in Maine. So their inclusionary practices project is to really work on developing that school leadership. And since they've been doing it, it's over 5 years now. They've seen improvement in LRE, attendance for all students, engagement for all students, assessment scores increase for all students, and social emotional standards for all students going up. And so thinking about how inclusion isn't just about making sure that students with disabilities are belonging, it's making sure that all students are belonging. And when we make sure that we're providing instruction and systems in place for all students to be successful, then all students are getting that opportunity to have more success. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing in Maine. In just about 2.5 years ago, our director, Erin Frazier, the director of the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education, made the decision, and along with Pender Macon, that we're going to change the name of our office from the Office of Special Services to the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education, with the understanding that it's important to really be upfront about what our goals are, and our focus for our offices is how do we provide those supports for students with disabilities so that they can have meaningful post-secondary opportunities and employment and education and independent living. And so really making that shift just with the language and then developing programming. So we have developed, and it's in draft form, the Maine Inclusive Education Framework. So we have key principles, indicators, some look-fors, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have our symposium, pilot schools, and network, and our annual conference. Next slide. So to do this work, we have been working with people from across the state. And if you're interested in being part of this work, it continues. So please feel free to email me and say, hey, I really am interested in this and want to be a part of this work. As we all know, and especially as special educators, we know inclusion is not a special education thing. It's something that we all have to be working towards together, with general educators, with administrators, with special educators, with families, students, related service providers. Excuse me, it's something that we need to be working on together. So we have, if you go back a slide, sorry. So this is part of our group, and if you notice, we have people from all kind of walks of life and education, but we are missing more people from the north and from down east. So if you are from those areas, please reach out. We're really always trying to find more people from those areas to participate. Thanks. Okay, next slide. My apologies. So this is kind of where we are when it comes to the Inclusive Education Framework. So we have been, I'm sorry, working together to build this out over the past 2 years. So we have, or in phase 3, so we crafted the pillars, we looked at indicators from research-based best practices. We've shared this with our steering committee. We have working groups that have been working on this. And now we're in the phase of looking at the look fors. So we have the pillars that you can see around the star above. So vision and climate, structure and schedule, system processes, instructional practices, family and community engagement, and accountability and support. And we also have look fors for all of those. So look fors at the SAU level. If we have an inclusive SAU, school administrative unit, what does that look like? What are the look fors in terms of vision and climate? What do we notice? We've also built those out for schools. So look fors for schools to think about what does it look like in a school at the school level. We're currently working on classroom look fors. And then we're going to be developing what are the things and ways that we can be supporting families in the community. Because the goal of inclusion is for all students to belong, but it's also so important for those students with disabilities that once they leave high school, they have access to their community and they have access to employment and they have access to post-secondary education. And those things are more possible when those individuals and students who've gone to school with them and their community knows who they are, knows what they're capable of doing, which is, obviously a lot, and being able to work in that community and be a meaningful part of the community. So all of this leads to effective and meaningful post-secondary transition. Next slide. So here's a little bit more detail of the framework, and I can give you, if you email me, I can share the draft of the framework with you. Excuse me, and it's linked to this slide. Actually, so you'll have access to it because I think Julie has shared the slides with you. So looking at the different components of the framework, what kind of climate is the school have? So they communicate a strong vision, foster inclusive climate. This is something we also do with our larger PBIS work. If you're familiar with the Maine Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports work with PBIS. PBIS does a beautiful job of creating the systems in place to support inclusive practices because we're working to develop a multi-tiered system of support in the school with team leaders to identify and support what's going on in the schools, which is a beautiful foundation for this work. And we have our 15th annual PBIS conference tomorrow, not too late. And we still have a couple spots if you're interested, where the keynote is an international expert in integrated MTSS who will be working with us tomorrow. So Maine PBIS work really is important in this as well. But you don't have to be a PBIS school to be doing inclusion. It just does lay a nice foundation. Structure and schedules, the structure of the school day and scheduling is so important because as you noticed in that classroom, in that video, there was a general educator and a special educator in the classroom. We're not saying that every classroom has to have a special educator, but what we are saying is we're really thinking about how are related service providers, how are special educators providing those services, and where are they providing them? We had a leadership symposium last year, and the keynote speaker had done some research on where students spend a lot of their time during the day. And she literally, people in her study followed students with a stopwatch. And when the kid would leave the classroom, when a student would leave the classroom to get services, they would start the stopwatch. And one particular student she was highlighting in her presentation with us missed 4 weeks of instructional practice as he moved throughout the building, going to all of his different services. So thinking about how do you flip that script? So MSAD 52 did a presentation at the MadSec conference just a couple weeks ago, and talked and shared the same thing of what they're working on in one of their schools. That's a pilot school of showing where their resource teachers were, where different resources and where the kids had to go and how they flipped it. So now the students are staying in their classroom, and then the related service providers and everyone is coming and pushing it. And instead of doing more pulling out of students. So thinking about those structures, and that's obviously a big leadership decision of how do you create a structure and system to provide those supports. System processes, how are we developing that MTSS? What kind of structures do we have in place to support and be thinking about all of our learners? Instructional practices, as you know, are key, focusing on social emotional behavior, but also the academics, so your core instruction. And then looking your MTSS in there as well. What are you doing for screening? What are the schools doing for really strong tier 1 instruction? Part of what they focused on today at the Reading League conference of making sure that every student in your school has access to really strong tier 1 universal instruction to give everyone a chance to have as much time with the content, the same curriculum that every student in the school has. Family and community engagement, as we know, our roles of families are so important in the work that we do, and how can we support them so that they can support their students and we can all work together. And again, that community involvement and how important that is. And then accountability and support. What are we doing to provide supports for educators? It's great if some people say, oh, we should be working and focusing on inclusion, but if no one's providing those supports for what does this look like for a general educator? If students are going to be staying in my classroom most of the day, what does that look like? How do I change my instructional practices? Do I need more professional learning to be able to do that? And how do we put those things in place to provide that support? Next slide. So some of the things that we're doing across the state is we're really trying to layer in supports for the work that we're doing. In October, we just held our 3rd Inclusive Education Leadership Symposium. And what this is, and you can tell from the picture some, is we bring people together, school teams. So we had 26 different school SAUs at the conference or at the symposium just last month, actually here at Thomas College where I am today as well. And about 150 people. And what we did was we focused on looking at the Inclusive Education Framework, and they came in teams, principals, special educators, general educators, curriculum coordinators, ed techs in some cases, and came together to really have some learning. And they worked with Dr. Michael McKeon, who's in the bottom picture on the left, who is an expert in integrated MTSS and inclusion nationally. And in addition, Kate McLeod on the left, and Dr. Kate McLeod and Dr. Jessica Apgar, who are working with us from the University of Maine Farmington to lead this work and provide those supports for schools. So you can see from this picture, we had time to break out and have conversations about inclusion. And really, it was a day of kind of rolling up our sleeves and doing the work. So we looked at the framework, but then these school teams were developing action plans. What are they going to do next when they went back to their school to provide supports, to think about their schedules? And what they did was they focused on one of the pillars. Trying to do it all at once is, as you know, anything that we do is really difficult to do everything all at once. And so taking the time to look at one particular pillar, look at the look-fors and say, how do we do a little self-assessment and figure out where we are and where we want to go and how we want to move forward. On the top left corner, that's Down East Elementary, and they are part of our pilots that I'll share about in a minute. And this activity, we're really teasing out and having conversations about what is the vision at your school and how does it align with the inclusive education work that they're doing. So day full of energy, enthusiasm, and passion about the work for inclusion. If you're interested, we do this every year. It is no charge for this event. There's an application because we ask schools to come as a team. We did it last year and we let people sign up, and we had some very frustrated educators who may have come by themselves or with one other person and said, oh, it would be great if my principal was on board with this. So this is a time where we need people to come together as teams. And then there's plenty of other opportunities that if you are at a school that not everybody's on board yet, that there's other opportunities we have for you to grow your knowledge and inclusion, but also for you to start recruiting them to come with you to other things as well. Next slide. So we do have 3 pilot schools that are our inclusive education pilot schools in Maine right now that we are providing intensive supports for the next 5 years so that they can be model sites that other schools can come and have conversations and learn from them. So it's Down East School in Bangor, and then Leeds Central and Turner Elementary School in MSAD 52. And the MSAD 52, as I said, did a presentation at the MATSEC conference. All of these schools will be at our inclusion conference in April and sharing their stories. Some of them are already hosting other schools coming to visit, but realizing that we are just in the first year of the project. And Dr. Apgar and Dr. McLeod are providing those intensive supports for leadership teams this first year. The second year will focus more on professional development and learning for educators. And then the third year, the same. And then in years 4 and 5, really providing those opportunities for other schools, for educator prep programs and others to come and visit in the schools. But always realizing that this is a process. It's not that anyone will go through the pilot school or any of the other opportunities we have and be, 100%, we are 100% inclusive and everything is good. It takes time and we're all learning and we're growing. But it's this really having this heart set and this mindset about the presuming of competency of all of our students, and that they are capable and that they can have that opportunity to be in their school, their local school. Next slide. Another way that we're providing supports for the state, and something that you can consider, anyone can attend these, are our Maine Inclusive Education Leadership Network meetings. And so we will be doing these quarterly throughout the year, and these are led by Dr. McLeod and Dr. Apgar. So Kate and Jess lead these as well. So same people who are leading the pilot schools. And so providing a space for people interested in this work and leaders interested in this work to come and have conversations. So our model schools do attend. So it gives them a chance to have conversations with each other and with the field. And if you're interested in hearing more about what they're doing, their experiences, they're more than willing to share during that leadership network. So these are some of the things that we'll be focusing on in the next few months. Again, reach out to me if you're interested in finding out more about this and joining the network. So in January, we're focusing, obviously on different pillars. So scheduling. In March, we'll be doing instructional and collaborative practices. And then in May, professional development and support. Next slide. So in April, I think my slide.
No, I think it's me. My
Okay, I
clicker
thought it was
wasn't
me. I was
working.
like,
I'm sorry.
It's like popping on and out, but I thought it was the way I created the slide, which is completely possible. So last April, we held our first annual Inclusive Education Conference. When you get these slides, you can click on the link. It's just a little newsroom story about the conference, which with the theme, Reimagining Education, Empowering All Learners, Embracing All Abilities. And really that's our focus of where we want to focus our energy for the work in the state, is about how do we embrace all abilities and give all students the opportunity to be in their general education classroom with their peers. So we had too many people for the space we had chosen. I said, let's start small. It's almost like planning a party. You're worried no one's going to show up. But we were really thrilled that we had over 250, 300 people at the Augusta Civic Center to hear Katie Novak is on the right, an expert in MTSS and inclusion. On the left, you can see Commissioner Pender Mencken came and gave remarks at lunch in support of the inclusive education work we're doing in the state. In the bottom right-hand corner is Karen Robbie, one of our PBIS leads for the state, hosting a session on behavior supports, because we know that can be a concern for general educators of, how do I, if students have behaviors that I need to be able to manage and I don't have the skills to do that, how am I going to do this? So making sure that we lay that foundation for behavior supports. And then the bottom left-hand corner is students from their Unified Literacy Program at Morse High School. And that's led by Dawn Lee, who was actually a County Teacher of the Year this year. So a day full of breakout sessions and people engaged in the work in the state of Maine. Next slide. Our second annual Inclusive Education Conference is April 8th. So save the date. And you can take a look to see a little bit more about who our keynote is going to be. This is her website. It's Inclusion Rules. And it's Dr. Paula Kluth. And she is similar to Katie Novak, very engaging, but really focusing again on inclusion and how do we provide those supports so that every student has access to every part of their school experience, because we all want that for every student. And requests for proposals are going to be going out and then probably by the beginning of the year. And then just keep your eye out for the conference because we would love to have everybody attend. And one of the things we try to do is recommend you bring your general educator friends with you as well. So other opportunities for inclusive education, and it may get loud because the Reading League conference is letting out now, right on the other side of the screen from me. Again, Reading League was a great day. The Maine Roads to Quality is an inclusion credential through the University of Maine system. Dr. Jessica Apgar is currently working on an inclusive IEP micro-credential that I will make sure that the monitoring team has too and can share that out. Actually, I think the monitoring team, you all got access to that and are giving the UMF faculty some feedback on that. So looking forward to having those opportunities, those asynchronous opportunities for people around inclusion. Just a reminder again, save the date, April 8th for the inclusion conference. We're also working with the Cedar Center, which is out of the University of Florida, that provides technical assistance for inclusion and technical assistance for educator prep programs and institutes of higher education. So we're working with them right now with the University of Maine system to develop inclusive programming in the higher education. So having conversations and work around what does dual certification look like in the future? What does dual programming look like in higher education? What does inclusive schooling look like for apprenticeship programs? And then looking at what does inclusive mentoring look like for the state. So we're working on developing a guidebook for that as well. If you're interested in being part of the Inclusive Education Framework work group or joining the network, again, feel free to email me and I'll give you that information. And then there's few resources here, high leverage practices for students with disability. That comes from the Cedar Center. Myths and facts about inclusion, that's from Washington State. And all of those ring true for Maine as well. So it's thinking about some of the myths around inclusion. Thinking that it's going to cost more, that different things of reasons why it can't be done. And they debunk a lot of those with the TIE Center, who's doing that. And then a research article just to consider the relationship between special education classroom placement and post-secondary outcomes. So for those of you, we're all working on transition and special education, but those of you middle school to high school, really thinking about what is it that we're doing in those classroom placements and how that's influencing their opportunities after they graduate from high school. Next slide. So as I mentioned at the beginning, my office coordinates special projects for inclusion. And just so you know, other things that we're working on that can provide support. We have literacy and dyslexia modules and supports. I mentioned Dee Saucier earlier, and she provides that guidance for the state. We're working also on a dyslexia guidebook for the state. We additionally have math supports, Jen Robital on my team as well. And we're really thinking about how can we provide supports for an integrated MTSS where you're able to tease out and understand literacy and math. Sorry, there's a large group walking by right now. My apologies. Maine PBIS is out of our office as well, in coordination and leadership from the University of Maine. Courtney Angela Sante does that, as well as Karen Robbie from UConn works with us. Transition Maine, as you know, transition obviously is the goal, is meaningful transition for all students. That is also out of my office. Titus O'Rourke leads that work with we have an executive student transition committee. We have the youth summit. If you haven't heard about that, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd love to tell you more about it. We also provide supports for conditionally certified special educators and obviously the framework. And then we have lead the special educator engagement development support seeds, which provides conditional certification supports, but also looking at that special education pipeline and other supports we can provide for conditionally certified special educators. Next slide.
Okay.
So I kind of flew through all of that, which was a lot. So I want to give you some time. Thank you, Jen, for putting that in there, the transition Maine work. But glad to answer questions and continue the conversation.
Okay, as people think of questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and Tracy's going to stick around and we can go over them if you put something in there. But I'm just going to kind of move us on. We have some resources that we always like to kind of wrap up our office hours with. This is the link to the Special Projects for Inclusion webpage found at the Maine DOE site. And so you can use that to get to that webpage to look at all the special projects that Tracy mentioned. And then also, again, her contact information there. So you can reach out to her. And then, as I said, we just have some resources that if you have been to our office hours before, they're going to look very familiar. We have on our webpage, we have a link to our special ed law. And so you can see that the procedural manual is here. You can also find MUSER here, the Maine Unified Special Ed Regulations, and those procedural safeguards, and IDEA, which are the federal regulations. And then this is our main page of our supervision, monitoring, and support. And this is where you can get to all of the different pieces that we give resources to. So you can always visit that page. This is our resources page where we keep information sheets on different topics that just kind of give a snapshot of what would be in those regulations. We have our quick reference checklists if you want to check those out for all of the eligibility forms, the IEP, the written notice, summary of performance, for compliance and best practice. And we also have our self-assessment form. So if you're ever thinking about, is this IEP compliant, you can run it through our self-assessment form, and that will help you out with that. This is our professional learning page. And so this is where you can find everything that's been recorded, because when we do office hours, we do record them. I believe that we share this with Tracy's team. So some of those literacy and math things are also on there. So you can look for those on this page as well. Things that have been done by Jen Robital or Dee Saucier. So you can check those out here. And then this is our PD schedule. You can see that we are almost through this slide. So we do have some of our recordings up on the website, so you can access those, and we have one more coming up in December, and then we're going to move into the new year. and we go until the end of May. So feel free to join us for any other topics that you are interested in. And then last but not least, we like to share just this page. This is where the forms are if you're looking for any of those IEP forms or anything for families. And our professional learning feedback and contact hour form. So we appreciate your feedback around our professional development and trainings that we provide. We really do use this information to try to guide what we focus on and how we present our trainings as much as we can. There are some things that we just really can't help, but we do our best. And so we do appreciate it when you fill out that feedback and let us know. And then you can select today's training as today's date, 11/12/25, inclusion. So that is the training that you would select for today. And just enter your email and I will send you a contact hour certificate along with a bunch of other goodies that I always send out, like our PD schedule and our IEP quick reference and copies of this PowerPoint. And of course, we have to share that you can find Maine DOE online and on social media, so feel free to check it out. And this is our contact information. You can always reach out to us if you have questions or if you want some feedback when writing something IEP related or forms related. We are happy to get back to you. Please just do not send us any IEPs or forms. Just copy and paste it and put it in an email, and we are here to help you out with that and support you with that. So I'm going to jump back to this page so you can see the link. And I haven't seen any questions get dropped into chat, but if you are brave and want to come off of mute and ask questions, you could also do that. So feel free. We're going to give you a little bit of wait time. Okay. Do we think that that's enough time? I'm going to say it is, I think. Okay. So I did drop the link to the form in the chat if you want to grab that before we sign off. But I think if you have questions that come up for Tracy, you have her contact information in the PowerPoint, and I think it was dropped in chat earlier. So feel free to reach out to her, and you can always reach out to us if you forget, and we can pass it on to Tracy. So no worries about that either. But thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we'll give you back a few minutes in your day.